Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to this 2015 debate. Mr. Speaker, but just before I get into my budget presentation, I want to seek your permission to make some brief comments on the rock gutter incident that took place on Monday the 12th, 2015.
Maybe I could make a blanket, I could give a blanket thing on this. Anybody who wants to make reference or mention of that incident, you can so do. And as in previous speakers, your time will not be noted for that.
Thank you very much.
So anybody who wants to make comments, once it's within limit, you are so free to do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that Monday morning of Monday the 12th, I got to the scene just before 8 o'clock. And what I would have seen, Mr. Speaker, it was really heartbreaking. And when I learned of 21 persons on that van who was in that accident, Mr. Speaker, I realized how difficult it could have been for the families who suffered at that time. Later on that day, we recognized that of the 21 persons on the van, 5 persons died, 2 were still missing, and 14 was hospitalized. Mr. Speaker, I have, since the mid-60s, the mid-1960s, I have been a member of the community of Fancy. And so when the incident took place, I could have immediately identify and associate with the grieving relatives. So, during that day, I assisted as much as I possibly could have. As a matter of fact, a policeman on duty came to me and asked of me to take 2 family members back to Fancy so that they can gather clothing for their relatives who were already in the hospitals. I did so. Bring them back to Georgetown. And while I was even traveling with them at that time, one of the mothers of one of the children who were in the hospital, she got a call saying that your child is dead. That in itself can tell you how a mother would react to such news coming at that time. But Mr. Speaker, the community of Fancy having been in shock has brought the community even much closer. The very day, the very Monday, I myself, I worked with the police. And at the end of the day, we made an assessment as to what the search will be like for the following day. The following day, not being able to find the bodies, again, we continue to work until the search was called off. But every day, I met with the families. And for every decision that was made, they were part and parcel of the decision. Mr. Speaker, it was the families who made the decision that the oldest cemetery would not be able to bury 5 persons, and we need to make sure that there was a new cemetery, and that the families got. Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, it was the funeral service of the 5 bodies. And we would have seen over 10,000 persons. They would have come to Fancy to show how much they were concerned and to make sure that they give that kind of support to the grieving parents. Mr. Speaker, the 5 students, Jamal, Glenroy, Anik, and Raquel, all those were buried on Sunday. But unfortunately, we have not found the bodies of Chanstacia and Simonique. And my heart goes out for those parents. Mr. Speaker, as was identified earlier on, there is 1 person still in the hospital, the nurse Hoyt. All others are already out of the hospital. Mr. Speaker, I want to give the assurance, and we would have seen in the Prime Minister's presentation last night, before his presentation last night, of the kind of support mechanisms that are in place for the people of Fancy. It is said, out of evil cometh good. And so, having listened to the Prime Minister's presentation last night, there is indeed much for the people at Fancy at this time. And I want to let the people know that I will continue to work with them during this time of their bereavement. I have never given up on the people in Fancy, and I believe now is the time when I will work much more closely as we move forward in this country's development. Mr. Speaker, As I turn to my budget address, I first of all want to commend the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Finance in once again finding the resources that are required to meet the services of intentions for the year 2015. Mr. Speaker, I do so on the central theme presented by the Honorable Prime Minister in his budget address, continuing the quest for wealth and job creation, equity, resilience, and fiscal consolidation in a small multi-island economy in the midst of exogenous shocks. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that the world today, the economy of the world, is in a sad state. And so, Mr. Speaker, in small economies like ours, where our levels of competitiveness is indeed challenged, and where our output is low, it is indeed a challenge to us for consistent growth and development. And this is indeed a constraint to all of us. Mr. Speaker, I sat here and I listened to the presentation of the leader of the opposition. And for the first time, I could not believe what I was hearing. And I'll go through in my debate areas that I will identify. Reference was made, Mr. Speaker, of a deficit of $30 million on the recurrent expenditure. And this he confirmed that this was true, that $30 million was indeed a deficit to the recurrent expenditure. But he went on to identify that there were debt payments of $104 million, that there were $10 million for the sinking fund, and all of this has to be met at a total of $144 million. And where is this money will be coming from? Mr. Speaker, that same question was asked in 2014, in 2013, in 2012, in 2011. And he asked, where is the money coming from to pay NIS? Where is the money coming from to pay salaries? Where is the money coming from to pay Braxa? The truth is, Mr. Speaker, all such payments have been made over the years. And particularly in 2014, we had the economy growing by 1.1%. So, You're asking the question that recurrent monies are not there, and you do not have monies for anything else. Yet, the country's economy has grown by 1.1%. So, what is the reason for the question? Mr. Speaker, we know very well that in 2013, December 24th, we know very well of the December floods, bringing a cost to bear of some 17% of GDP of this country. There was the 2012 drought. There was the April floods. There was Hurricane Thomas in 2010. All of these affected the output of this country. And so, even though that we had all of these difficulties, not only Braxa or the civil servants were paid, there were new programs like the SET program that was put in place. Many more nurses, many more policemen were added to the various establishments. Yet, you ask the question if and where the money coming from and when or if they will be paid. So when the opposition leader quoted, Mr. Speaker, that in the IMF report, where guidance would have been given to specific areas, the IMF understood very well that all of these are factors that you have to consider in ensuring the economy moves forward. Mr. Speaker, we are not living in a perfect world.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker. The
point of order, sir?
State the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, well, I could go on a point of order, but maybe it might be better if I seek the permission from the honourable member to give clarification to matters raised. It might be more effective.
All right.
So I seek his...
Okay. Well, he's set in already, so I guess...
Thank you very much.
I guess you can do
Mr. Speaker, I just want to share with the honourable member the very important question on the deficit that has been raised by the honourable leader. It's a real question that is summarized by the honourable Prime Minister himself on page 77 in his budget address, in which he made this point, that debt servicing cost is expected to account for 31% of current revenue in 2015. That is 31 cents on every dollar to service debt. And he went on to say, Mr. Speaker, that yes, 31% of current revenue, higher than we would wish it to be. It is therefore of utmost importance that we further develop strategies for proper management of the debt to permit us to reduce servicing costs and identify any risk inherent in the public debt portfolio. In other words, the Prime Minister himself acknowledged that we could not go on indefinitely or for very much longer with a deficit situation because the debt servicing was in fact getting to be a proportion or percentage that will become unmanageable. So this is summarized, Mr. Speaker. And that's the point the honourable leader of the opposition was making.
Mr. Speaker, We do not live in a perfect world. And I agree that there are a lot of things that can be much better. I agree that instead of paying $220 to pensioners, I'll be happy if they can get $450 per month. Equally, I will be happy to see all of the sporting facilities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in top shape. But the present economic condition does not allow for it. And so, Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge very well the comment made by the member for Central Kingstown. And that the Prime Minister would have, in his address, made the covers. All of us realize that things can be better, but it can only be better if the resources are available. Mr. Speaker, I listened to the comments of the leader of the opposition today. I was not here for the debate in December when the estimates were done. But, Mr. Speaker, I have come to the conclusion that the way the opposition viewed development is when you look in a rearview mirror as you're driving along. I just listened to the presentation by the member for West Kingstown, the honorable member for West Kingstown. And as an engineer, he's saying that it's easier to build houses in Gibson Corner than to build at Clare Valley. What are the factors at Gibson Corner versus that at Clare Valley? The geological report has indicated that the movement of soil at Gibson Corner cannot and will not allow for houses to be built. There is movement of the earth at Gibson Corner. There is no movement of the earth at Clare Valley. Yet, here is an engineer by profession making such comment and is chomping his chest as though this is law. Mr. Speaker, I am saddened when I hear professionals like these saying that they are interested and wanting to be at the helm of government in this country. Mr. Speaker, as this country seeks to move forward, Mr. Speaker, I cannot, in the life of me, accept some recommendations I'm here coming forward from the opposition benches. Mr. Speaker, I recall And I want to give appreciation to Panel Campbell QC. In his first law, in his first program for 2015, the Law on You, where his topic dealt with count your blessings and give thanks. Mr. Speaker, this country is not a country with oil or gold. And so, Mr. Speaker, I was moved indeed when I heard the comments from Panel QC, Panel PR Campbell QC, in his comments. We are a Christian nation, and of course, we must give thanks for the blessings we have. Mr. Speaker, I entered politics a long time ago.
26 years.
And I recall in the 2001 elections, coming from the NDP platform, that agriculture is becoming a thing of the past. Mr. Speaker, when I heard that, I couldn't believe. But when I researched data and see what was happening, Mr. Speaker, I understood the comment. The opposition has, and particularly within recent time, has been challenging agriculture very seriously. But they would have forgotten their statistics. I made the point before, when the NDP came to government in 1984, there were 2,900 acres of arable lands to agriculture. And when they left in 2001, agriculture had available to it 17,000 acres of land available. Over a period of 17 years, 12,000 acres of land went out from agriculture. And then you are making your assessment that agriculture has not been performing. So, that you're saying agriculture not giving the performance as what it used to be under the NDP, but forgetting that you had 12,000 acres more of lands for agricultural production. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition, even in his 2001 budget presentation, spoke of the uncompetitiveness of the banana industry. So, you have been making noise that the banana industry is not doing well. But you have not told us. You have not told us at all. You have not told us. You have not told the nation. What are the changes that has been brought about for a new and more vibrant banana industry? Mr. Speaker, I worked with the Banana Association for almost 10 years, you know.
Again, there's misrepresentation of the statement of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition on the question of bananas. In fact, his representation in his presentation was quite the opposite. And when he indicated that we had a significant deficit in our balance of trade, and he felt that bananas had the potential to earn some $50 million, although realistically maybe 20 million might be better in order, and he said that he would proceed to have maybe 1,000 acres of bananas put back on the cultivation and other aspects he will take. But he did identify agriculture and tourism as potential for closing the gaps in the balance of trade in the productive sector.
Honourable Member, seriously speaking, the one who really should be challenging the statement that was made is the one who made the statement. And he is not here to challenge the statement. I don't think that, rightfully speaking, you can justly challenge a statement made by the honourable member against the understanding of another person.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I say, and I say it again. Mr. Speaker, tell us what has changed over the years that has brought your party to the position that, as you say, you can bring back the glory days of bananas. Okay, Mr. Speaker, let me go on. Mr. Speaker, when we came to government in 2001, we immediately paid $20 million to the Banana Growers Association, with having met a debt of $32 million in 2001. And since we came, we have been offering subsidies to the banana industry. Mr. Speaker, the opposition leader, as I understand it, is an economist. Mr. Speaker, if country A sells oranges and apples at $10, and country B sells apples and oranges for $6, in a competitive world, who will be able to sell oranges? That's the first question. That's the first question I want to ask the leader of the opposition. He's not here. The honorable leader of the opposition.
Please.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Speaker, the same goes to bananas. It is a well-established fact that the Windward Island banana industry is the highest cost producer of bananas in the world. We produce bananas on average at about $1,000 US per ton, while places like Costa Rica produces bananas at around $300 US per ton. Mr. Speaker, so if between the Windwards and Costa Rica, if both has bananas to sell, I expect, as an economist, you'd be able to bring to bear such judgment. But let me say to you that there is a new company, Company Fruitier, that operates in West Africa, where at the moment they are producing 140 boxes of bananas per week. And they will be very shortly producing 200,000 boxes of bananas per week. And they are producing bananas at $280 US per ton.
I think you said they're producing 140 boxes per week.
Per week.
140,000
boxes per week, sorry.
Right.
And they will be producing very shortly 200,000 boxes of bananas per week. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the opposition NDP are aware of these facts. Mr. Speaker, the member for Central Kingston got up a while ago and said that the leader of the opposition will be presenting a paper in some time to come. But we have been hearing that for a long while. We have been hearing that for a long while. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for Central Kingston made mention that they will be putting forward 1,000 acres of bananas if they get to government. And it is written in their Christmas column in the newspaper. Mr. Speaker, that's a blanket statement. It did not say whether or not if it is irrigated or non-irrigated, or whether or not it is part of the present 100 acres we have now, or if it is new acreage. But using the assumption that you would be putting in 1,000 acres of bananas, on average, Mr. Speaker, 1 acre yields approximately 8 tons of bananas. So if you are going to put in 1,000 acres, obviously, you will have for that year 8,000 tons of bananas. I expect this is the kind of information that will be presented if the opposition is presenting something for the country in terms of production and productivity within the agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, on average, Mr. Speaker, on average, 55 boxes of bananas weigh 1 ton. And so, Mr. Speaker, on average, on the market today, 1 box of banana is being sold on average at around $12 per box. So if 1 ton of bananas from St. Vincent will get $12 per box, US, it means therefore that the return for the 55 boxes is going to be $660 for just 1 ton. And therefore, with the 8,000 tons of bananas that will be produced by the opposition, the income you're looking at, the return, is $5.2 million US.
That's the gross.
That's gross. But if you look at cost of production, on average, to produce 1 ton of banana in the windwards is $1,000. And you're producing 8,000 tons, Mr. Speaker, the return is going to be, the cost of production is going to be $8 million. No. If you are going to, in your returns, receive 5.2 million, and your cost of production is 8 million, it's obviously, it's US, you are losing 2.8, round it off, $3 million for your 1,000 acres you have planted. So for every 1,000 acres of bananas, on average, you are losing $3 million.
So he needs at least 15 tons to the acre.
This is why I said I wasn't sure in terms of whether or not if it is irrigated bananas or non-irrigated bananas. But equally, if you produce irrigated bananas, your production increases twice time. So your return is going to be $10.4 million. But there is a cost to the irrigation and the system that is being operated. In 1998 to 2000, an irrigation system was placed here for $48 million with a lifespan of 25 years. But the operational efficiency and the cost of the operation on a day-to-day basis is 25% of the cost of that system. It means, therefore, when you work the figures out, you are going to come with returns on 1,000 acres under irrigation, even with a minus $6 million. Mr. Speaker? So, when you add, this government has been offering, even in the budget estimates, $7 million goes to the Ministry of Agriculture for banana production. So you have a compound $7 million and an average loss of around $6 to $8 million. On average, $14 million loss to the banana industry. That is a picture that is being presented by the NDP. That is what it is. Mr. Speaker, $14 million for 7 years is $100 million. And we are building an international airport for $700 million. So it means, therefore, the loss on the banana industry in the Windwards for 7x7, which is 49 years, can build an international airport for all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is what it is. And I expect, as an economist, that you'll be able to produce this kind of information, this factual information, so that you can say that we can bring back the banana industry to give jobs to St. Vincent. But with the ULP, you are having the banana industry and you are having an international airport to take this country forward in years to come. That is what I'm saying to you. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Prime Minister for equally ensuring social security in the budget that he has presented. The opposition has made the point that the budget concentrates too much on social security. But, Mr. Speaker, I made mention of improved and increase amongst of monies to our pensioners. Mr. Speaker, I am happy. I am glad that the poor and the working class is recognized in this budget so that the poor can benefit. But, Mr. Speaker, this budget also recognized very well of capital expenditure. You have the Argyle International Airport. You have the housing program. You have many roads and bridges to be built. Tourism is also being, and they will be getting their fair share. Mr. Speaker, never before have I seen so much money for bridges and roads to be done. And this is so because of what took place in 2011, 2012, 2013. And this issue, Mr. Speaker, it has been addressed in the Prime Minister's budget, where climate change adaptation has to be thoroughly addressed if we are to reduce the vulnerability and the shocks to our people here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mr. Speaker, you know, I have heard the comments that things were better under the NDP. But it's sad to know that things were better, but poverty was at its worst. There was no YES program, no SET program, no Lives to Live program, no home help for the elderly, no free burials at Christmas, no education revolution. Yet, things were better. That's why I say that the NDP is looking at development in a rearview mirror. Looking at things, but looking behind. Mr. Speaker, I also want to look at where the comments are made that the roads in this country are the worst in living memory. Mr. Speaker, I recall when we were in opposition. I recall on the main highway, farmers used to be planting coconuts, bananas, in holes on the main highway. Even where I am living, there is a road from the main road going down to the beach. When the NDP came to office, they made that as a motorable road. The Bernards used to be using that road to take on average 10,000 coconuts on a weekly basis from that area. In 1986, the government took over the estate. And by 2001, that road was not motorable. Not even a donkey could have gone through that road. Today, that road exists again. I recall there were persons from Chatibele, from Fancy, who used to be going to Kingstown, coming to Kingstown by boat. Yes, there are some roads that are bad. But to tell me that the roads are the worst in living memory, really, and to see 10,000 persons converge in Fancy on Sunday tells you that the road, the main road, is one of comfort to drive on. Mr. Speaker, I know that I've been in this parliament for the last 14 years. And I'm proud as a parliamentarian to have seen improved access, not only on roads, but even in terms of air access. I want to say to you, before 2007, there was not a Rabaka Bridge. But there is a Rabaka Bridge today you know, when I was in Fancy on Sunday and the rain started coming, I laughed. Because prior to 2007, I have seen persons coming to that area where any shower of rain come down, they will be running. They want to make sure that they can cross the Rabakajai River. So to tell me that the roads are at its worst, not telling the truth. I have seen a number of vehicles come to point. Having gotten that information, that point was the winner of the Christmas lighting this year. I've seen a number of vehicles coming to point every night to view the lighting that existed there. I really want to comment. I want to commend Point Massive for once again winning the 2014 Christmas lighting competition. Yes. Cheers to all of Point Massive. That's right. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, under the terrible economic situation, this government has done well. It has not been an easy road, but this government has done well. And I'm sure the majority of Vincentians, both home and abroad, are proud of this land in Vincent and the Grenadines. And will continue to be proud once a ULP administration is in government. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to my ministry. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Housing, since its administration came to office in 2001, understanding the needs of the people, understanding the culture, the way of life of Vincentians, this administration instituted a policy to assist persons who are poor and needy with housing. Mr. Speaker, a no and a low income housing program was established. And so, over the years, we have built over 1,200 houses in that regard. Yes, there is need for more. And we will continue to build more houses. Presently, houses have been built at Clare Valley and at Green Hill, also on other private locations. That's houses that have been built by the HLDC. But Mr. Speaker, lately, there have been some problems at these sites, resulting in remedial works to be done. No doubt there would have been some poor construction. There could have been some poor supervision. But Mr. Speaker, there is need for tighter controls in these regard. We can recall a few months ago, one of the houses fell. This is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. But with the assistance of BRAXA, remedial work is being done to improve on the housing stock that is there. I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that this administration never shunned its responsibilities And we will do what is necessary to ensure that the houses that are built is done to the best of the construction that is available. We have just reorganized the management and the technical department, where we believe that with strengthening both departments, that we will have better results. Mr. Speaker, at Green Hill, there were some delays in terms of the houses that have been built. As I understand it, Mr. Speaker, the resources that were due for some infrastructural work, for some services, that there was some problems there. But all that is now out of the way. And so I was made to understand that these houses will be delivered no later than the end of March 2015. Mr. Speaker, while we continue to work on houses at Gibson, at Clare Valley and Green Hill, this year we will add to our housing program the area of Maraqua. Equally, I want to say to you that 2014 was indeed a busy year for HLDC, because they too had to carry the rehabilitation program of $20 million. And so, this year, they will continue with that program. And equally, they would continue with the Lives to Live program. But I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that under the rehabilitation, the disaster rehabilitation project of 2014, I am pleased to say to you that some 163 houses were constructed and repaired at a total cost of $14.534 million. At the moment, we are still working on 22, and another 10 houses to be built completely. We also have to do work on the infrastructure in those areas. And so we expect that by the end of June 2015, all of this work will be completed. But there will be increased work with the HLDC for the Lives to Live program. And the Ministry of Housing is just awaiting the names of the beneficiaries so that we can start that program at this time. The thing is that the Ministry of Housing is not selecting the names for this program, and the names are coming from the Ministry of Social Development. So we are awaiting those names. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the Surveyors Department, the Surveyors Department, or Surveyors Department, has surveyors as well. That department has played a very important role in the policy development of this government. The problem we met in 2001 when we came to government was one of tremendous squatting. And this department has helped to alleviate that problem. And so today, to date, we have regularized some 3,765 parcels, while we turn dead capital live. No more will we be accepting, under this administration, any levels of squatting. This year, the Surveys Department will continue that program. And so, we look forward to a lot more areas to be regularized. We expect also that a number of building lots will be made available as we continue the housing program in the ministry. Mr. Speaker, the physical planning unit. This unit, Mr. Speaker, has also been an outstanding one in the ministry. And so, this unit has been charged for ensuring proper standards and procedures with the building codes by law. This year, we expect that there will be increased building of houses, because under the Good Teacher program, there will be students coming to St. Vincent requiring rooms for living. And as the Argyle International Airport comes on stream, where there are going to be more tourists coming in, there is going to be the need for more hotel rooms. And even with the students from the medical schools, as we would have known that for the first time, the numbers of the students coming to St. Vincent have increased dramatically. And so the need for housing is increasing more and more. And so the physical planning has to ensure that as we seek more and more rooms, that what is to be done proper in terms of the standards, the procedures, the building codes, all of that has to be done and done well. Mr. Speaker, one issue, however, with the physical planning is that Gibson Corner continues to be a worry, because we have seen some movements of squatting coming back in, but the Forestry Department has been charged with the responsibility to ensure that that area is being reforested. And so, we are hoping that with the support of the Ministry of Agriculture, that this program be improved over the year. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to my constituency. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the constituency of North Windward up front for giving me the opportunity to represent them in this parliament over the last 14 years. I want to thank the council for working with it, because without the council, it would not have been an easy road. And so, before 2001, the constituency would have identified many problems. Despite the endowments that existed, the natural assets that existed, that constituency, no doubt, would have been the constituency with the highest levels of poverty over the years. The constituency was identified with high levels of unemployment, teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, absence of secondary education, poor health care, poor housing, and much more. And so, Mr. Speaker, when one looks at the resources that would have been available in that constituency, and the low level of investment, both in terms of human, social, and physical, we realize that development was of the most basic type. Mr. Speaker, we set about from 2001 to change all of this. When we looked at the statistics, Mr. Speaker, for that constituency, between 1984 and 1996, the agriculture sector as a whole declined by 60%. There was the closure of the Orange Hill estate. Between that period, there was the closure of the sugar factory, the sugar industry. There was the closure of the coconut industry, of which the Orange Hill estate has been traditionally known for this. There would have been a reduction of the banana industry. And by 1996, though the poverty assessment that was done showed that poverty was at 37%, 37.9%, that area had levels of poverty of over 50%. And a study was done in 2000 of the socio-economic impact on the changes of the banana industry. And the study showed that 42% of the banana farmers were below the poverty levels. That 50% of the industry workers were below poverty levels. The statistic shows that workers Fancy, Owe, Sandy Bay, Overland, Orange Hill, Langley Park, they received less than $400 per month as their monthly salary, their monthly wage. At that time, the basic wage was $18 per month. Today, the basic wage is $36 per month. And the Wages Council is now meeting to review wages to ensure that there are improved wages for workers in this country.
Month is it? $36 per month?
$36 per day.
Yes, you said month.
Oh, sorry, $36 per day. That's what it is presently. Mr. Speaker, I know it has not been an easy period, but this government has taught us. This government has been giving us a fish, while it teaches the people in the constituency to fish. And so, Mr. Speaker, there is the education revolution. There is the nursing program. There is the YES program. There's the training of police. All of these are programs that persons in that constituency can now be part of, where they are being trained, but at the same time, they are being paid. And that's why I say that while we give you a fish, or while the government has been given a fish, they also have been taught to fish. And so, Mr. Speaker, understanding the background through which we came, with the help of the Constituency Council, we developed a roadmap. And that roadmap, Mr. Speaker, was able to give us that platform through which we have worked. It was in October 2001. The Constituency Council came to the Cabinet and presented that roadmap so as to let the government understand the support that the constituency is looking forward to over the period of time. This document, Mr. Speaker, would have been used in many of the poverty alleviation programs to ensure that the results we are now seeing is as a result of the work we would have done prior to 2001. And so, Mr. Speaker, identifying in that developmental work program was the identifying of and opportunities for secondary level education and skills training. Mr. Speaker, today, Sandy Bay can boast, the constituency of North Unit can boast that there is a secondary school in that constituency. It is not that the potential did not exist before 2001, but the opportunity was never given for the people in that constituency. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am happy as the representative for where we are. Mr. Speaker, there is also the skills training program that is going on, and this has been handled by Mrs. Dells, who has been doing an extremely good job at this. And congratulations must go out for her for the work that she has been doing.
Honourable Member, you have 10 minutes to conclude here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Maybe I should say, Mr. Speaker, that when the secondary school was established in that constituency, the results were not at the best as I would have liked. But today, Mr. Speaker, that school is one of the best improved secondary schools in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mr. Speaker, the common entrance exams have shown similar results. And so I want to thank the teachers who would have done a great job over the years. Mr. Speaker, opportunities for sustainable employment. Mr. Speaker, when I hear the opposition speaks about unemployment, you know, I get goosebumps on my skin. Mr. Speaker, the record shows that the NDP in government, they closed the sugar industry, they brought nothing. They closed the diamond industry, the diamond dairy, nothing. The sugar industry had around 2,000 workers, you know. It was replaced by nothing. The diamond industry, the diamond dairy, they had 200 workers. There was nothing. Nothing to replace it. The Orange Hill estate was closed under this administration. 450 workers were sent home.
Just showing you that you closed down and you didn't
Nothing was provided. The coconut industry was closed down, Mr. Speaker, sending hundreds of farmers home with coconuts to go nowhere. When they came to office, they met an arrowroot industry with 1,200 acres and 5 mills operating. When they left one rundown mill and 117 acres. The figures are there. The data is there. Mr. Speaker, from 2001, immediately when I got in as a representative, we established the Rabaka sand mining at Rabaka. Today, 27 persons are working. In 2002, we revitalized the arrowroot industry.
You asked him how much acres?
70 persons as farmers are benefiting from the industry. 70. 44 persons are working at the factory. And we continue to do work on the arrowroot industry. We moved the price of arrowroot starch. We moved the price to be paid to the growers for their rhizomes from 21 cents to now $1 per pound for rhizomes. The NDP, they met the price of rhizomes to farmers at 18 cents. And after 17 years, it went to 21 cents. 3 cents in 17 years. Those are facts. We established the farine factory at Orange, Mr. Speaker. When it is operational, 20 persons work there. At the moment, the grinding mill is giving some problems, and that is being repaired at this time. But 20 persons do work there. The Learning Resource Center, Mr. Speaker, was built in 2005. When being constructed, up to 30 persons worked. But today, 7 persons are permanently employed. The fisheries complex at Ovia were employed. We are having some problems with it in terms of its management. But the Ministry of Agriculture is seeking desperately to have private sector to assist in its management. But when it was functioning, you had 12 persons operating. Mr. Speaker, in 2007, we built the Rabaka Bridge. And when it was constructed, you had up to 60 persons being employed. The Rabaka Bridge will be and will continue to be one of the historic milestones for this administration and the constituency of Northern Road. Mr. Speaker, in 2008, we built the Farmers Training Institute because we realized that in terms of meeting the competitiveness of the industry, and as farmers move from the banana industry to other crops and livestock, there need to be a place for training. And so, today, there are 5 persons working there. In 2008, we have the construction of the secondary school. And at the moment, well, outside of the teachers, you have the cooks, the cleaners, there are some 12 persons working there. 2009, we would have seen the construction of the Windward Highway, where 200 persons worked on that project. In 2010, we had seen the Oria Salpan rehabilitated. 7 persons are now working there after 50 persons benefited in its construction. 2011, we saw Thomas Recovery Program. And in 2011, Mr. Speaker, hundreds of individuals work on this program. In 2012, we saw the continuing of the housing program. In 2013, we saw the continuing of the reconstruction from the December 13 floods, Mr. Speaker. And presently, we have the mental health patients placed there, where persons from that constituency is presently benefiting. Mr. Speaker, a comment was made earlier on by the member for West Kingstown in terms of health care, particularly in that area. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is here, and he would be able to tell you in terms of health care what it was before 2001. And you had an ambulance, and he made the point that there was like Barney, Flintstone with Barney and Fred and Barney. The Prime Minister would have made that comment here from time to time, where even with the ambulance, you had to cock up a foot. Even with the police transport, a similar situation. Exactly. So coming to say that there is no functioning ambulance in that constituency, Mr. Speaker, is not true. There is an ambulance based in Sandy Bay. And that is so because of this administration. There is also an ambulance based in Georgetown at the Georgetown Health Center. So that to come and say that there is no functional ambulance is not true. Mr. Speaker, since we came to office, we also had a doctor placed north of the river. Never before we had a doctor placed in that area. And so the people are happy and pleased of that.
3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say to you that we continue to do work on the sport facilities, that at Rabaka, at the National Park, where work will be starting shortly, that we intend to also put in a sporting facility there, together with all the other facilities that will be placed there. Mr. Speaker, we have improved tremendously the village roads in Dixon, Langley Park, Orange Hill Overland, Sandy Bay, Point, Over Fancy. We have all improved roads in those areas. In terms of housing lots, Mr. Speaker, we have regularized 259 lots in that area, but we have distributed 423 lots since we have come to government in that area, Mr. Speaker. So the constituency would have benefited and benefited tremendously. Mr. Speaker, some of the beneficiaries are now beneficiary to mortgage financing in this country. And so, Mr. Speaker, this country has benefited. For this year, we will see improvement in road improvement in the constituency. In Fancy, Mr. Speaker, since the work started in Fancy in terms of the response to the fatal accident, work is now being done on the long-awaited Cottage Road. I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, that it is being bandied about, both with the cemetery in Fancy and with Cottage Road. When I came to government in 2001, one of the requests that I was asked was to ensure that there was a new cemetery and a road to Cottage. I am happy that I have delivered both a new cemetery and a road to the people at Cottage during my time of representation. Mr. Speaker, we would continue with housing development within Fancy, Ovia, Sandy Bay, Orange Hill, Overland, Langley Park, Dixon, while we continue with road improvement. We will also continue, Mr. Speaker, with Braxa to have the roads in the mountains to be done. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that I have done extremely well since I've come to this position to represent the people of this constituency. Mr. Speaker, the people of that constituency has asked me when the next elections are called to continue my representation for that constituency. And so, when I got into politics for the first time, they are the ones who would have come to me to ask of me to go forward as a representative for that constituency. They continue to ask of me to continue to do that work and to do that role. And so, Mr. Speaker, with health and strength, I will continue to give what I can, give all my all for the development of that constituency. Mr. Speaker, let me extend New Year greetings to the constituency of North Windward. Let me extend New Year greetings to all of the workers, the civil servants in my ministry. Over the years, since I've been at that ministry, almost 3 years, we would have had extremely good relations. And so I want to say to them that I recognize the hard work you have been doing. And so we all will work hard to ensure that St. Vincent and the Grenadines benefit with our skill and our hard work. And so, Mr. Speaker, finally, let me wish this bill a safe passage as we debate this in this honorable house at this time. I'm much obliged, Mr. Speaker.